Hey, this is Gary from Daymaker Touring. Today I'm going to show you how to assemble our latest Alpine adapter, whether it comes to you in a pre-built form or the unbuilt form. Let's hop into it. So if you bought the adapter directly from us, it probably came to you pre-setup. That means that it has already been sized appropriately for your ski boot. If you bought it through a retailer, or maybe you selected on our website that you'll set it up by yourself, it will come to you unassembled like this. So first, let's take care of how to assemble it, how to size it, adjust it for your boot if it came to you pre-built. It comes with an instruction manual. You can go to daymakertouring.com/pages/tutorials to view all this information right here. Check with your local avalanche center for conditions. Hashtag Daymaker Touring for us, and don't forget to leave a review. Within your box, there are parts located here, screwdriver, your wrenches. Those go to these hex bolts right here. These are shim lifts that will go between the toe lug and the metal plate here in the case that you have any slop up and down. I'll touch base on that later. So we'll set this aside for now. Okay, so let's get started with sizing these in a ski. This is a normal downhill ski boot. It doesn't have a walk mode. It has a flat sole on it. This is a downhill sole because it is flat. These are just some aftermarket pins I had added onto this boot. And if we are going to compare that to a Gripwalk sole, it'll say Gripwalk. They're rubbery Vibram sole. It'll be curved on the bottom. You can see it bulging out here where it's taller here than it is over there. We'll need that later for setting up. Normally a Gripwalk sole will be installed on a touring boot like this, where you have a walk mode, but sometimes you'll see them on a downhill. So what you're gonna do next is look for the size of your boot. It will say 315 millimeters right there, or whatever size you may have. You'll see this stamping. It says set greater than or equal to BSL. So I have a 315 millimeter boot, and this adapter has been set to 318 millimeters. You can see this B right here pointed to 318. So it is set greater than or equal to the boot sole length. If we want to check the sizing there, we'll slide it in. And then just press down and you're in. In case it doesn't fit great, we'll do a little bit of troubleshooting later, but let's just keep going. And pop that out. I'll put the ski aside for now. Okay, now what you want for a boot is slide the boot in all the way so that your toe goes all the way against this metal wire, pushes firmly against it, and right here, this heel belt has not been set. Most of the time from us, it will come set for the correct length of your boot. So we're just going to pop this heel belt out, and you can see it's flattened here. This heel belt will key into these side slots. You can see that. And let's just try this setting right there. Really quick and easy to adjust these things. And that is way too tight. This will not flip up at all. Let's go back. All right. When you're flipping up the heel bell, you want this region right here to lock into this plastic part of your boot, and that will cam around it. It should be quite tight. This takes a bit excessive force. It will snap, but you probably don't want to be pulling that hard every single time. What you're looking for is to have minimal amount of motion of this plate to your heel. It's pretty firmly snapped down there. I would probably normally roll like that, but just in case that doesn't work out, it is okay to just adjust one of the bales, just like that. And so these are not parallel anymore. That will give you a sort of in-between sizing. And there we go. Snaps right on. Okay, let's fit these back in the ski. So we're going to go and step in, push down, and voila, everything fits. You have unrestricted motion in the front, unrestricted motion in the back. You can put up your elevator, your second elevator set, and that will give you the ability to walk up steep slopes. Let's flip those down. Now, on the snow, what I like to do is I'll set the adapter in my ski first like this, with the heel bell over the rear of my binding, and I will just step in, slide my toe all the way forwards, clamp my boot, and then I will step down. And the reason for that is if you try to first put the adapter completely into your ski and then step in, it's really difficult. There's no place to go. You see that here? Really tough to get this heel bell to get over the boot. You have to lean forward or use your risers. And it also puts unnecessary strain on the heel bell to step in. So do it like I did before. Slide the adapter into the binding first, but don't click down all the way. And then put your boot in, clamp your boot, and then step down into the binding. If you have a Gripwalk boot, it's pretty simple. All you're gonna do is shift your toe bell to the front slot. The rear slot is typically for downhill boots, and the front one right there is for Gripwalk. To do that, just pull out these rubber tabs, grab with 2 fingers, and grab there on the toe lug. Make sure that the toe bell is keyed up perfect to slide through the slot, and you're just gonna pull on that and pop it into the front slot. Push those rubber tabs back through, grab the end and pull it. There you go. Now that this is all moved forward, my heel bell will also move forward accordingly. I'll start with just one slot. The reason for moving forward is because the Gripwalk is taller and will take up more space, so it's going to shift your boot back from the binding. So here we go. Snaps on really tight. I'm all the way forwards. You can see that where my heel is making contact with the top deck and my Gripwalk is all the way down. Let's step in. There we go. Let's go over some troubleshooting. Let's say that the binding shipped to you, it was pre-set up and it didn't fit correct. So I'm going to bump this out. You don't need to do any of that, but we're just going to look at it and say, oh, the binding is too long for the adapter. So you can see that from all this motion we are seeing here, that the adapter is too short for the binding. Okay, so we are going to make an adapter adjustment. Make an adjustment. You can utilize the wrenches that came with the adapter. Loosen these bolts, slide them out, take off this plate, and adjust the plate forwards. Now, if it's just one small size I need to adjust, I think I'll show you here that it says 318, and then there is a 321 size, and 314 is smaller. You probably just need to go from 318 millimeters to 321, but if you slide this plate, that B won't be pointing at the 321, it'll stay on this rail. However, we're going to remove the heel and we will flip this plate around. The A will then be pointed there, and we will install this heel lug on this B side. For speed's sake, I will use a socket wrench here, 9/32 or 7mm, I believe. And this will speed things up. Okay, got one out. Two out. Okay, and we will pull these bolts and do it carefully. Try not to disturb the placement of the long linkage onto this plate. You can see there, hole is going all the way through. You don't need to touch that anymore. And we are going to disassemble the heel here and move it to this side. You can just use the screwdriver that we had supplied. I tried to put a finger on top of the hex here and hold that down so they don't go anywhere. And we're gonna speed this up with a drill. Make this real fast for you. Flip the plate around, hold the hex down with my finger, put the screw in, and I try not to do them all the way from the start until I have all three screws partially screwed into there. And now I'll tighten all of them down. Okay, we're good to go. So now, when you look at this plate, it's the A side pointed to the sizing here. And we're gonna have it pointed to 321mm. Keep that pointed. And I will take a bolt and place it through. I like to keep the bolt heads on the same side as these bolt heads. Keep it all consistent. And I'll slide this one through. It's very important that this rear bolt goes through the long linkage. Do not miss that, or else you won't have a 4-bar linkage at all. This will be flopping around. Okay, now that they're all the way through, these heads are flush to the blue plate. You may need to jiggle that around a little. I'll put the washers on. Put these nuts back on there. And I'm going to tighten them down. Okay. Now that we got this adapter reset, let's go ahead and place it in a ski. And I'm stepping down. Boom. Fits right in there, no movement, and we have successfully resized our adapter. And now you might be wondering what these little black shims are for, and that is for primarily Gripwalk boots and soaking up and down play of the adapter in the binding. This shim goes in between this toe lug and this plate right here. And so you only need to do this if you have an adjustable AFD, and by that I mean this right here is your AFD. This raises up and down depending on the height of your boot. So if your binding does not have an adjustable one, you really shouldn't need to worry about this. The cases where you do not need to worry about it are on a binding like this here. You can see where it says Gripwalk compatible. It's also downhill compatible. This does not adjust at all. It's always in the perfect space for a downhill boot or a Gripwalk boot. However, for this Griffin binding, maybe an STH, a couple other bindings like the Warden, this is adjustable. And we'll go through and see right now if it's actually needed. So you can see in here, there is a little bit of a gap. This stamping catches some of it, but if I were to press down, I can get some up and down wiggle room. You see that? Right there, of the adapter. Now we want to go soak up that play. So now we're going to install this shim real quick. And I'm going to pop this out, just to make it easier to work on everything. All right. We remove all these screws here. Keep the adapter upright so that you don't lose the nuts right there. They just stay right in place. If they ever fall out, make sure that this blue end or white end, whatever it is, that's like a nylon or a rubber fitting for the locking. Make sure it is up and the flat hex surface is on the bottom. Okay, we've got this shim lined up with the holes there. We'll place this on top and gently with our fingers we can initiate screwing that in, hit it with our screwdriver or drill, and we're just going to go partly in, not all the way, just enough to get some bite until we have all three of them installed. It might take some wiggling around, and I also keep my finger above the hex nut there to keep it in place. You don't want that popping out. Okay, partly there. Same thing, finger screw that in. If you tighten all these first, it's gonna be really difficult to get your last one in. So that's why we do it partially. All right, it's biting. It's completely in, tighten down all the way, and we'll do that for the rest. There we go. All right, we'll test that out. And it's already a much tighter fit right there. Pop it in. And yeah, all that play is gone. The up and down space has been soaked up by that little spacer. So once again, if you have a Gripwalk boot with an adjustable AFD on your binding, you'll probably need this shim installed. It may already come installed if you told us that you have a Gripwalk boot when inputting your size on the website. If you buy this adapter and it's not already pre-assembled, you'll probably need to install that yourself, and it comes in the parts kit. But let's move on now to a Daymaker that has not been set up prior. Here is our adapter that has not been set up already. It's something that you bought on the website and said, I will set up myself. You've obtained secondhand, or you bought it through one of our resellers. Located within here, you want to make sure to open up your box all the way. This is your spare parts bag, and this contains all the necessary components to set up the adapter here. We'll set that aside. And right now, we can go ahead and pull out these heel bells to make the assembly easier. Set those aside for later. And let's just focus on one. So, like I did earlier, we want to go ahead and look at our ski boot, find the sizing. Right here on the inside of the heel, it says 315 millimeters. And what we're gonna do is remove these bolts carefully. These should just be finger tight when they arrive to you, but they need to be tightened down all the way when we set this up completely. I'll pull those bolts. Take a look at this plate, and I'm gonna set the sizing greater than or equal to my boot sole length. So right now the A is pointed to all these lengths. My length is 315 and 321 is greater than 315. So that works. But if we flip this over, we said there's a 318. So you want to choose the closest size to the size of your ski boot. And 318 is closer than 321 to the 315 boot sole length I have. If I set it to 310, that's going to be too small. If I were to set it to 314, that might work. It'll probably be a bit too small on the adapter size though. So to do 318, we want to install the heel lug on this side right there. I'm gonna gently set that over here to try to not disturb that alignment. And the heel lug will be installed like this. And one of these bolts does not have grease, one of them does have grease. The grease one came out of this right there because it's pivoting on the linkage. In my spare parts bag, I'll just empty all of that out. You will need these screws 3 for each side, so 3 for this adapter, 3 for that adapter, 3 screws, and 3 hex nuts to go along with it. Hex nuts, I just drop them in, and like I said earlier, the flat side of the hex should be dropped in first. It can be a little difficult sometimes to pop in there. You'll take this heel lug and place it on this blue plate, and then we're going to install these screws. Use the screwdriver that we provided, and you don't need to do them all the way yet. First, get all 3. Okay, we're going to go ahead and tighten them down completely now. Notice how I'm keeping a finger over the top. That'll keep these in place. Okay, we're all tightened down now. And we're going to carefully slide this plate on to the 318 that you can see right there. Just hold that in place. Take the bolt with the lubricant on it. Place that in. You can see that it has gone through the rear link, and the Daymaker pivots like this, making a 4-bar linkage, and that's the 4-bar linkage. Super important, do not miss that step. Take the other bolt and place it all the way through, and I'm trying to hold that with my hand. I hold it just like this. Put the washers on, and we'll screw on these hex nuts. And when they go on, they will be tightened down all the way. I'll make this quicker with my ratchet setup. You just need to tighten them down until they won't really go much more. Don't crank them as hard as you can. You don't want to strip anything. So long as everything is flush, this is tight, the plate's tight against there, you're all good. Just really need the locking on, like the nylon locking nut, to be engaged with the threading right there. Let's tighten this last one. Okay, see how I can just do that with my fingers right here. I don't need to grab this and crank. Don't want to over torque these. Everything is tight. There's no wiggling back and forth. And let's put all the spare parts back in. Keep them out if you're going to do your other adapter. Now let's go over our fitment. I have a downhill boot here, and right now this tow bell is installed in the rear slot. You can see that. This is the setup for a downhill boot. For a Gripwalk, we're going to shift it one forward, but this is downhill, so let's keep it there. If you have a Gripwalk boot, you're going to need to probably install that spacer that I showcased earlier. That's only if you have an adjustable AFD binding. Let's get this fit right. So I'm going to take this heel bell, slide it into the keyed slots. Let's go for this one first. We want to make sure that the toe goes all the way in, and it's way too big. Let's try there. All right, we're good. That fits great. This is the Pivot 15. And we're just gonna step in. It's already on the boot, and we can step into our binding, and there we go. We've got all this clearance room in the front. See how it's not hitting anything through here? You have this full range of motion until everything bottoms out. That's the maximum range of motion of the adapter, and you get to drop everything completely flat right here. So there we have it. You're completely set up ready to go ski touring.